Hello friends, this is Tishia from Meadows and Mortar by Tishia, and today I'm going to show you all how to do a step-by-step tutorial for how to do decoupage. Now I got these signs from the Dollar General. They were on clearance. I bought them and I'm just covering them all up with the same color. I'm using Gustav from Paint Couture. It's that light beigey color, but you can use a white, you can use any sort of light color that you want to go on the background. The main reason that I'm doing this is because I'm trying to cover up the words, because if you don't cover up those words, then once that you get your decoupage paper wet and you lay it on there, you'll see those words peeking through, and we don't want that. So I want a nice crisp, clean background, and I'm just taking this and putting an even layer over all of it. Now if you had some sort of wording that was bleeding through, or some pictures that had like bright reds or bright greens, something that might poke through a little bit more, then you may have to do 2 or 3 coats. But with this, with those words, all it took was 1 coat. After that's all dry, the first thing that you want to do is flip your decoupage paper over, and then you want to use a misting bottle full of just regular plain tap water, and you want to saturate the back of it. Now, I say saturate, you want to be able to see through, like see the picture more vibrant. You don't want it like sopping wet, but you do want it coated pretty well. Now, what this is going to do is this is going to release the fibers in the paper, and it's going to make the fibers swell up. So what's going to happen is whenever it touches the medium that you're using to adhere it to your photo, then it's not going to freak out and like wrinkle up on you because it's already expanded. So after you get that good and misted with water, then you're going to come in with a nice coat of whatever medium that you're wanting to use to glue it down. I'm using Paint Couture's Extreme Guard, and this has little grids in it, so you can see that I'm trying to make sure that it's getting in each one of those little grid boxes, because I want to make sure that I'm going to get this adhered everywhere. So I'm going to have to push it down into those little cracks, so I want to make sure that that's good and pushed down in there. And then I come through with just a nice light sweeping motion across just to even it all out. After that, you're going to position your decoupage paper however you're wanting to. I like to adhere one side of it, and then I work my way across. So from here, I have the left side is completely down and flat, and then you see me holding the right side up with my right hand, and then I'm taking my left hand to just smooth it on out as I lay it down. After I get it down, then I use the pads of my fingers to make sure that everything is down and adhered and that I don't have any bubbles. So remember, this had those little grid sheets or little grids underneath it inside of the original painting. So I'm wanting to make sure that my paper is pushed down inside of those grids. So that's what I'm doing with my finger now. I've already took the pads of my finger and just made sure that there are no bubbles across the surface of it. And now I'm making sure that that's good and seated down inside those grooves, so that this really is a part of the photo that I'm attaching it to. It's not just laid there on top and you would see like bubbles underneath it where those grid parts are. After everything is all seated down, you're going to come in with that same medium that you used to adhere it, and you're going to put it over top of it. So what this is going to do is this is going to sandwich it in, and it's really going to make it a part of the project that you are attaching it to. Whatever the substrate may be, your decoupage is now a part of that piece. It's not going to come off because you have glued it from the bottom and the top, and it's not going to go anywhere. Like I said, I'm using Paint Couture's Extreme Guard, but you can use whatever you would like. I know a lot of people like to use Mod Podge. I don't particularly like Mod Podge. It's just like Elmer's glue to me, but you do whatever you feel comfortable with. So I would like to say that these prints that I have got were from A Touch of Whimsy by Amanda. I'm not sure how many decoupage prints that she makes. She had sent these to me a couple months ago for me to try. They are a very nice quality. They felt like 18-pound decoupage paper if I had to guess. And I have had no problems with them. I have really enjoyed them. So I'm doing the same process. This is another one of those pieces that had little grids behind it. So you see me making sure that I'm working it into all of those grooves, and then I start from the left and then I work my way over, and then I just smooth everything down. Now there are decoupage tools that you can use. It's like a squeegee sort of thing, and it has like felt on one side of it. Lots of people use that and they love them. But I have found that my fingertips work best for me, and that's what I prefer to use. I've also had friends that have had great success with taking some cling wrap, just the plastic cling wrap, wadding it up into a ball and using that to rub it over top of the decoupage surface to smooth it out as well instead of using their fingers. And I have also had friends that have used the iron method. So in that case, you would take and lay down whatever you're wanting to use to adhere the photo to it. You're going to let that dry completely, and then you're going to put, once that it's dry, you're going to lay down your decoupage paper over top of it, and then you're going to lay parchment paper over top of that, and you're going to turn an iron on, and then you're going to iron it down. And as that iron heats up that paper, it's going to heat up the adhesive behind it, and then it's going to adhere it to it, and then you can apply the top coat over top if you'd like. Now right here, you see me lifting up these corners. So I had just took a razor blade and just cut off any of the excess that was around the edges. Well, then I had a couple corners that were not adhered as much as what I would like them to. So I used just a fine little artist brush. I come in with that same extreme guard, and then I just tack down those edges a little bit better. And sometimes I go completely around the whole entire edge of my thing just to make sure that it's all adhered well. Now on this one, I decided that I wanted to come in with some stencil paste, and I'm using the aged bronze stencil paste from Paint Couture Paint, and I'm just using the little edge of this stencil, and I'm just wanting to make a little trim to go around the edges of it. Now, why am I doing this? Well, one, it's cute, but two, if you look up there at the top right hand corner, I made a little bit of a mistake whenever I was adhering it down, and I missed part of it. So there is that little white sliver up there that should have been covered with decoupage paper, and it was not. So I'm just gonna make lemons out of lemonade here, and this is how I'm gonna mask it. So when I get done with this, unless you knew that there was a mistake, you're not gonna know that there's a mistake on here. So this is a raised stencil. This is gonna be a little bit textured. If you run your fingers over it, you're gonna be able to feel it. You will be able to see that it's raised a little bit. It's gonna give it a little bit of interest. And I just take this stencil and then I go across all four of the edges. Now this is a repeating pattern stencil, so I can overlap it if I want to, or I can do a start-stop situation if I wanted to do that. It's just whatever you prefer. I'm using a palette knife, just a plastic one, to put this on, but you can use whatever you want to push it down inside of there. Now I'm coming in with some dark wax. I'm using Annie Sloan's dark wax, but there are tons and tons of different waxes out there, and I'm just wanting to kind of age this photo up and grunge it up a little bit. So I'm putting this around the edges of it to make it look like it's worn, like it's been sitting in somebody's house for 45 years and it's just got like that tarnish around the edges of it. You know how paper gets whenever it sits over time, it just yellows around the edges of it, and that's sort of the look that I was going for here. So I take that dark wax, and I'm just using a makeup brush, and I dip the makeup brush inside of the dark wax, and then I just swirl it around, and a little goes a long ways whenever you're using dark wax. Once that you get it on there, then you're just going to take a clean rag and you're just going to buff it right off. So the thing with wax is whenever you take your hands and you rub it across the wax, if you feel any sort of resist, like if it's hard to slide your hand across there, then you know that you have too much wax and it needs to be buffed off more. You want to be able to take your hand and rub it across and it just glide right along there, and that lets you know that you have buffed off enough. And if you don't buff off enough and you have like that sticky tacky feeling, it'll never go away. It won't cure enough to be able to stop that. It's going to have like a disgusting feeling for the rest of the life of whatever the piece is that you've worked on. So you can see that I put some around the edges, and then also on the inside of this tire right here on this bicycle, I grunged it up a little bit because it just looked a little too stark compared to the rest of it, and I wanted it to have a little more of a vintage vibe to it. And you can see I use my fingers to just smudge everything out a little bit, and you know, you can use a rag if you don't want to use your fingers, but I use my fingers for all kinds of crap. They always have paint and stuff on them. So now I'm going to come in with that same dark wax. No. That one's not dark wax. That one's black wax on this one. And I just go around the edges and I make like a vignette And here is the final products. And aren't they so cute? And guys, decoupage is so easy. If you have the right tools and you are able to use your hands and feel what's going on, then you can have amazing results. You don't have to go buy really super expensive stuff. This is just an easy project for you to do and spice up your decor. And guys, I can't wait to see you all next time. Thanks.